अरे वो अपना 701 वाला सीनियर है ना, उसको दूसरे कॉलेज के सीनियर से कल का कैंपस इंटरव्यू क्रैक करने की एक सॉलिड टिप मिली है एंड ही इज रेडी टू शेयर विद अस। बस बदले में उसको एक हफ्ते के लिए शर्मा के ढाबे पे ट्रीट देनी होगी। एन ऑसम डील।
तो ये देख,
ये क्या है?
701 वाले सीनियर को बोल GeeksforGeeks पे रियल लाइफ एक्सपर्ट्स की डेटा स्ट्रक्चर्स एंड कोडिंग क्लासेस along with superb tips to crack any IT interview and exam.
Hey geeks, Akshay this side, and 4 people are live, so we'll wait till others join. But before I say, I greet with you guys, I'll talk to you guys. I have to mention one thing. So as you all are aware, the situation is really bad outside. Like people are really struggling for beds, and they are struggling to get oxygen cylinders, concentrators. So I just want to share a link with you guys so that it might help. I'll putting it in the banner. So it's a Twitter search for COVID, right? You go to this link. So me and my brother have been helping many guys through this link. So through this link, you can search. There are tweets coming on the feed. There are latest tweets. Kahan available hai, kahan nahi hai. So just check it out, guys. This might help you. All right. So that you can note it down. and just putting it for another 20-25 seconds over here. All right. So okay, guys. So some hi hellos, please. I am most welcome. I need to interact with you guys, right? I always do that. I'll wait for some comments. Okay, so as I'm waiting for some comments, I'll tell you about the guest today. The session is about interview experience as Zeta. So the guy's name is Siddharth. So he's from Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of Information and Communication Technology, Gandhinagar, and he did his BTech in Information and Communication Technology from there. So he is currently working as a software engineer at Zeta. So we'll talk about his interview experience. And as I told you about the guest, I'm really excited to call him. I'll in another 10-20 seconds, I'll call him. I'm really happy to see some comments. Hi, Anurag. Good evening, man. Hi, Manish. Thank you guys for engaging. I know not many people are live right now, but as I always say, even if one person is live, the entry should be same, right? Because we are providing some value. So I really hope that more people join as we move on, and I'm sure they will. All right. Without delaying any further, let me invite Siddharth to the stream, and we'll talk about his interview experience. Great. Hey Siddharth, how are you?
Hey Akshay, thanks for the introduction. So without further ado, let's start with the interview experience.
Definitely. So, brief introduction about yourself would be like best way to start, I think.
Okay, so I am Siddharth, currently contributing to Zeta as a software engineer. I got into Zeta in July 2019, and I got the job placement offer in previous year's July only.
Okay.
So I've been contributing to Zeta since almost a year now, and it's been fantastic contributing here. Every day you would get a new problem to solve. You would get a chance to employ your data structures and algorithm skills in a better way here to optimize response times, to design scalable and robust systems, and to contribute towards building next generation payment systems. So it's really nice in terms of learning here.
Okay. So you really enjoy your work there, right?
Yes.
That's really important, I think, anywhere you work. All right. So how did you get to know about the opportunity? Was it on campus, off campus?
Yes, so it was an on-campus opportunity. So every year, our college has a campus placement drive, and Zeta happened to be participating in our batch's campus placement drive. So it all started with an online coding round. So there were 3 questions in the coding round. All of them were based on.
How many rounds were there? Sorry. How many rounds were there?
So basically, there were 3 rounds in the recruitment process.
So now you are explaining each and every round, right?
Yes.
Okay, please.
So our first round was an online coding test, which consisted of 3 questions. All of them were actually based on data structures and algorithms only. There were no questions on just arrays or strings. So first question, it was on finding longest paths in a tree. Second question, it was on dynamic programming. It was basically a 2D dynamic programming application.
Okay.
The third question, it was on graphs, but it wasn't visible that we have to actually use graphs in this. So basically, we have to arrive at the conclusion that graphs are actually a better data structure to be employed here.
Okay, can you please explain the last part again? Like graph वाला थोड़ा मैं समझ नहीं पाया question. बाकी
Okay,
दो तो
so
आए.
basically,
Hmm.
the question was something like this: you have a permutation of length n, and
Hmm.
what you have to do, and there is some operation which is performed at every iteration on that permutation, and that will
Okay.
again lead to shuffling of that permutation. So
ठीक है.
what you have to do is find out the number of iterations after which you will get the same original permutation. That is the permutation received in the input. So
Okay.
at first it didn't strike me, but after reading the question for 2 3 times, it struck to me that we can actually use graphs here. Basically, we can use the numbers as vertices and edges between index and the array element, and that way we will get a set of cycles, and the answer will be just the LCM of length of all these cycles.
Okay.
So
So just
that
three
way.
questions were there. Like just three questions were there in the first round.
Yes, in the online coding the context, there were only 3 questions, and I
ठीक.
was able to solve 2 of them. But since the shortlisting for interview happened based on the CGPA and also the resume, apart from the
Hmm.
questions solved in online coding contest, so I was able to get shortlisted for the interviews. So
Okay.
after a couple of days of this online coding contest, there were interviews for this company. So the first round of the interview was basically a data structures and algorithms round,
Yes.
which again consisted of 3 questions. All
Hmm.
of them were on data structures only. Again, so first question, it was basically an application of topological sort. So you have a set of files, and what you are given is a dependency between all these files. So it was said that you cannot compile file A without compiling file B. So you can just model it again as a directed graph, and basically you have to perform topological sort on these graphs to get the order of compilation of all these files, so that you get a whole program.
Okay.
After that, there was the second question, which was basically unbounded knapsack.
Hmm.
So you have heard about a knapsack problem in dynamic programming. So there was just one constraint which was removed, that is the number of items. So here in unbounded knapsacks, you can use as many items as you want.
Hmm.
So basically, I have already seen this problem before. So I just be I just be honest, and I told the recruiter that I have already seen this question.
Oh, you
So
told him. Oh, okay.
so it's better to be honest in during interviews, because sometimes you already know the solution, and in acting only the interviewer sometimes catches you that you are pretending that you do not know the solution. So it's better to be honest and just tell the interviewer that you know the solution.
Sorry. I have a question. I have a question.
Yes, yes.
Question is that okay, if somebody asks you something in an interview, okay, if you already
Okay.
know the question, so generally what happens is like you just answer it because you already know it, right? But you told him that you already know. That's really like kind of new for me, to be very frank. Like,
So
yeah.
basically, the idea here is that sometimes it happens that you pretend that you do not know the solution, and basically what happens is
Ah,
that sometimes you just give a slight smile, and
pretending
the
from.
interviewer catches you that you already know the solution, and it may turn on around you in later parts of the interview, and you may end up getting even tougher questions than actually you can handle due to that.
Okay. 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 Got it. Got it. Okay.
So after the interviewer knew that I already knew the solution, so he just told me to implement the optimal solution, which I did. And since the interviewer now actually has an idea of how much I know, so he went ahead and asked a bit of difficult question.
Hmm.
So the third question was actually a bit of difficult one. So it was based on binary search trees, but it
Okay.
also involved the usage of segment trees. So it was basically around optimizing certain algorithm, basically formation of binary search tree from an array.
Hmm.
So you are already provided with the new solution, which takes O of n square. And what you
Hmm.
need to do is propose a solution which takes less than O of n square, that is O of n log n or O of n time. So at
Okay.
first I haven't seen this question before, and I was like clueless. But what I did is I started simulating this algorithm 2 3 times in my mind, and I came to know about certain observations. So I
Okay.
told that we know that first element will always be the root of the tree. The first element after this root, which is lesser than the root, will always be the left child, and so on. And I mentioned those observations to the recruiter, and the recruiter, after seeing my observations, gave me some hints, and based on that, I was arrived at the conclusion that we can instead use range minimum query to solve this question.
Okay. So
And
you said that he gave you hints also, right? Like in that
yes,
difficult question only. In that difficult
yes,
question only, he also gave you some hints. Okay.
yes. So hints actually depend on how are you performing in that question. So if you
Hmm.
like be like I cannot solve, I cannot do it, then the interviewer will also get demotivated and it just rejects you.
Like he won't.
So instead of
If
doing
you're
that,
actually doing things and getting stuck somewhere, then he might think, okay, I'll give him a hint, and then he.
the
Oh,
interviewer should also feel that you are actually trying to solve the question. So the
that's
interaction is
exactly.
what compels the interviewer to give you hint.
Hmm. Got it. Got it.
So,
Okay. Okay.
so after this hints, I was able to arrive at the conclusion that we can use range minimum queries here, and for that we can use segment trees. So I was already aware of the data structure segment trees, and I mentioned my solution to the interviewer, and he seemed to be convinced with that. And then I went ahead and implemented the solution using segment trees. So after this, the first round was over, and at the end of first round, the interviewer also seemed to be very well convinced with my performance. So he promoted me to the next round. So after
Okay.
a couple of hours, my first round, I had my second round, and this
Hmm.
round was a technical round. So this round actually tested my knowledge about technical subjects like databases, operating systems, computer networks, and the interviewer was
Okay.
director of engineering of at Zeta.
Okay.
So
So this round didn't involve like live coding and coding stuff. It was more about the knowledge stuff. How was it? Like, what's the format of the second round?
yes, sir. So technical round, we have a mixture of both. We have
Okay.
some essence of implementation of algorithms. For example, the interviewer can ask you to implement multi-level feedback queues, and in turn, the interviewer can even ask you to implement a database for a certain use case. So it
Hmm.
is not purely coding, but it is a bit of
Mixture of
coding plus
both.
a bit of conceptual implementation.
Okay. Okay. Anything specific you can tell that what exactly did he ask? Like from what
Yes,
topic,
yes, I'll be
subtopic did
telling
he ask?
you.
Yeah, yeah, that would be helpful.
So the interviewer started with questions on databases. So he first asked me to define all the serialization levels available in databases. For example, we have serializable, we have we have different types of serializable levels, right? So I mentioned about all those serialization levels, and
Okay.
after that he asked me about the advantages and disadvantages of using them, and I was already a bit confident in databases, so I was able to
Hmm.
answer them all. After
Hmm.
that, the interviewer switched to computer networks, where he asked a question like, "What happens when I actually type a URL in an address bar of a browser and hit enter?" I mean, he asked me to describe the flow of request right from the browser to the server and the flow of response from server to the browser. That is all the layers of computer networks involved in between. So I was able to tackle that as well. After
ठीक
that,
है.
the interviewer started scanning through my resume. He
Hmm.
asked me about the projects which I did, and uh, asked me to to describe what I did, what I particularly did in particular projects. For example, there was one project on machine learning, so he asked me how I solved this,
Okay.
which algorithm did I use to solve this particular machine learning problem, what was the accuracy, precision, and recall, how could it be improved. So that type of questions were involved in this technical round. And since I majorly contributed in my project, so I was aware of all the nitty-gritty of my projects.
Great.
So that way
Great.
I was able to crack this tech round.
Hmm.
And the interviewer also at the end seemed convinced with my answers. And I was able to crack this round as well. So I had
Okay.
only two rounds of interview for this. And after this round, the placement committee student members called me and told me that I have received an internship offer at Zeta. And since I already knew about the background of this company, what the company is into, and what are the learning opportunities in this company, and how it takes care of its employees, so I decided to give a shot and accept this internship offer.
But you
And
said there were three rounds, right? अभी तो आपने दो बताया ना. You just talked about two rounds, both technical
mm,
rounds. So third round, before third round only, you're saying you got the internship. Like you didn't
So
talk about the third round.
third round was, so I was including that coding round as well in there in those 3 rounds.
Okay, so okay. So basically, second and third round was like kind of
Interview round. Interviews are only second and third round. First round was
okay.
coding.
Got it. ठीक है. Okay. Yeah, please carry on.
So, so I got the internship offer. So I started my internship in January 2020, and in some around April or May 2020, I got a job offer from the same company based on the work which I did there. So
Hmm.
I knew that since the company is rapidly progressing, so it wouldn't be much harder to convert this to a job offer.
Okay. Great.
So that is how I got into Zeta.
All right. All right. Okay. So, as you said that during your interview also that you were very much aware about whatever projects you build in web, right? So obviously there's an importance of projects in the resume, without a doubt. But I want you to tell the audience your views on this. Like how many projects at least are required in a resume, and any project ideas you can give. And in general, you want to add something to this. So my next question to you is, what is the importance of projects according to you in the resume?
So yes, so projects contribute a lot to your resume because it tells the interviewer or the recruiter that you have actually done something in this area. You have actually contributed something to the software industry.
Hmm.
But secondly, having too much projects in the resume also makes the resume bulky. So I would advise that while choosing your projects for the resume, you should first research about the company for which you are applying, and have a gist of what the company is into, who the company is looking for, and based on that, you can actually select your projects for the resume for that company.
But
And I
but
would
but
advise.
selecting for each company, don't you think would be tedious? Like I think everyone just about to execute two projects, two three projects. That's what I feel. But like if you have to select project for each company, don't you think that it'd be too many projects? Like how do you go about it?
Okay, so for the people who do not have more projects, for example, for 2 3 projects, they are just fine. You can mention all those projects in for every company. But for people who have like invested their 2 or 2.5 years just for projects, and they are preparing for placements only for competitive programming in their third year, for them
Hmm.
it's a bit of a choice since as to what to include for a job description for a particular job application. So for
Okay.
them, what they can do is they can decide based on the job description and the company's profile, and not mention more than 3 or 4 projects. At max, 4 projects should be enough.
So how
But
many
if you
projects
are,
did you how many projects did you have? Like,
so I actually had 6 projects. So I
oh,
actually had
nice.
to prepare different versions of my resume for different companies.
This is the
For example,
maximum I've heard till now. By the way, I've interviewed a lot of people who got this. This is the maximum I've heard till now. Just saying. So that's a good thing.
Yes, because that is because I actually was into projects in my both first and second year. I mean, I
Hmm.
wasn't into coding till the start of my third year. But yes, at
Okay.
the start of my third year, I started coding, and I used Geek4Geeks only as a starting point because it has conceptually segregated all the problems, and it is a bit easy to go through them.
Okay. Any project ideas you want to talk about? Any
So,
resource did you use for that? Or anything?
So yes, project ideas you can decide based on. So first priority should be, so that also depends on your interest. For example, if you are more into machine learning, you can start implementing some neural projects on neural nets. You can start participating in Kaggle competitions and make some projects on that
Hmm.
competitions. That would be
Hmm.
really helpful and will shine in your resume as well.
Okay.
And if you are like more into web development, you can try making React projects. You can try making projects on Node.js. You can even try hands at Flutter. I have tried my hands at that, and it's really good.
Okay.
And yes, not one more thing to mention is that though people haven't tried much projects in their extracurriculars, you can actually use their projects in your curriculum. For example, some people may have implemented some of the projects as part of software engineering, as part of their operating systems course, etc. So do consider those projects as well while making
Oh,
your resume, because that also
so there
contributes.
are projects which are involved, which are a part of the academic. We can also involve
Yes,
that way.
yes.
Okay, ठीक है. Okay. All right. So how do you keep yourself motivated? That's my question, Siddharth. I'll let me tell you what exactly do I mean by this. So obviously you must have interviewed at more places. You must have faced some rejections. So every time you face a rejection, you go into the loop of self doubt and everything. Many things happen. Many things happen in your mind. So how do you get over with that noise and get that motivation again to get going and go towards your goal?
Yes, so first thing to mention is that interview process, recruitment drive at DICT is very much hectic in its initial days. For example, for the initial 1 or 2 weeks, it would be like you will be giving a coding test on first day, and then interview just following on the morning of the second day, and then again a coding test on the night of the second day, and again an interview on the
Really
third day
aggressive.
morning.
Really aggressive.
So so that was a bit hectic, and it was like you have to sacrifice your meal sometime because you do not want to feel sleepy during your interviews as well. So I obviously faced some rejections. So one of
Yeah.
the rejections was in Sprinkler. So after getting rejected, I rather than getting depressed, what I felt was that I started analyzing my failures. So that is what I usually do when I fail. I first go through the sequence of events which happened. For example, I went through all the interview rounds which I gave,
Hmm.
and I
Hmm.
started questioning where did I actually fail here. And after pointing out my mistake, I actually try to correct them in my mind first, like
Hmm.
play that sequence of event again, and not to make that mistake again during
I
this
do that
event.
too, man. I do that too.
So
I do
so
that too.
first,
It works.
to win the battle in the world, you have to win the battle in your mind first. So
Yeah.
that mistake needs to be corrected in the mind first. And this practice actually helped me in my interview at Zeta as well, because
Okay.
one of the events which happened was that when I interviewed at Sprinkler, I wasn't much confident in algorithms because I thought that if I say that I am very much interested in algorithms, then I would be faced with two hard questions, because the
Hmm.
guy who was interviewing was already a DICT alumnus and was known to be asking very hard questions in algorithms. So at that time, he asked me that, "Do you have interest in algorithms?" So being in fear, I told that no, and that actually turned the tables on me as well. But then
Oh,
I realized that it was actually a blunder, and the questions weren't much harder than what I expected them to be. So I corrected that mistake because that same question actually was also asked in the interview at Zeta. So the first
oh.
question which the interviewer asked me at Zeta was that, "Are you interested
Hmm.
in algorithms?" So I said that, okay, let's give it a shot. Let's say yes.
Yes. Got it. Got it. Yes, I am. That's crazy, man. Because the question repeated. You just learned from exactly what happened. That's great, man. That's great. And I think that's a great strategy.
So
You should go through it in your
mm,
mind. Never let that go. You should learn, squeeze as much wisdom from your failure.
mm,
Then it doesn't remain a failure
I
anymore. I
mean,
feel.
yes, depressions actually come with failures. But yes, if you are feeling much depressed, then what you can do is you can take sleep, you can take rest for
Music,
3 or 4 hours, and then rise up
good.
fresh and start analyzing your failures if you are
Yeah,
feeling that depressed.
I want to add some good music also to this. Listen
Yes,
to
yes,
good music
fine.
and relax and just move. I do that. All right, all right, okay. So the last question I have from you is that advice to the viewers, placement related, any particular advice you want to give?
So yes, there are some advice which I have already planned. So one thing which I want to mention it was that is that before applying for any job or in any company, just do a thorough research about that company, about the job profile which the company is looking for, and prepare your resume based on that. Second is that before appearing for the interviews for any particular company, just go through the interview experiences of that company's previous interviews. And I would actually say that you can use Geeks for that, since Geeks has a very rich catalog of interview experiences for many companies. So you can actually leverage Geeks for that. So this will actually help you gauge your preparation against companies' hiring bars. So
Okay.
that will be helpful.
Okay.
The third advice is that it's again a particular question. So in many of the interviews, there is one popular question, that is, what is your favorite data structure? So for this question, what you can do is select one efficient and optimized data structure. For example, you can select segment tree, you can select ABL trees or something like that, and do thorough research on it and try solving at least 10 to 15 questions on it so that you have sufficient implementation knowledge of that data structure. Because the interviewer is actually going to ask you questions on that data structure and will actually going to tell you that this data structure is inefficient or it doesn't solve a particular purpose. So at that time, you should be prepared to for that questions.
Okay, Siddharth. Okay. So, Siddharth, that's it from our side, questions which we had. But we already, extended till 26 minutes. So, just one question we can pick. And I already see one question. I'll just tell you if you can talk about this. So, Rajat asks, can I get an internship in a product based company only with problem solving skills as I don't have any projects and focusing currently on DSA and CP? Can we talk about this, Siddharth?
Yes, so Rajat, what
Okay.
you can do is you can invest some of your time in preparing some projects. For example, you can even use YouTube on that, and you can even use Geeks for Geeks. It has certain articles on projects, and you can actually implement that projects and mention them on a resume. It won't take much time, and then you can continue your CP skills. So that way, you can actually better your resume as well, and you can and that can also crack coding interviews very easily.
So basically, only problem solving skills won't help.
See,
You
only
have to.
problem solving skills and DSA and CP won't let you land you an internship in any company because they will actually look for the technical skills as well. So yes, this is one of another advice which I want to give to the viewers. So don't just only focus on DSA and CP. Invest some time in technical subjects also. For example, you should invest some time on databases, operating systems, computer networks. This is required because as a software engineer, you won't be just coding. You will be implementing databases. You will be designing databases. You will be designing microservices. You will be implementing caches as well. And all these things require
Yeah,
knowledge of databases and other
definitely. Or
technical
you might
subjects
have
also.
to, if you are not doing it yourself, then you might have to deal with a team who is doing it, right? So there might be a case that you should know at least the fundamentals of it, because in companies, what you work with different teams, right? Even in tech, so that can also be the case. I feel.
Hmm. So I would say that you should focus on DSA and CP. That's fine, but you should at least invest some time on technical subjects as well. So that will be my advice to Rajat.
Okay, Raj. Sorry. Okay, Siddharth. Rajat, I hope this answers your question. All right. So, Siddharth, that was it. Thank you for joining us and sharing your experience. You actually you went down in the memory lane and remembering everything what asked, jotting it down for us. So, thank you so much. And Rajat is saying thanks to you, Siddharth, so for taking up his question. Just got a comment. I thought mentioning it to you. All right. So that's it,
So
Siddharth.
thank
You
you
wanna?
for Greeks for providing the platform to share my interview experience. Hope you like it.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Really. So okay, guys, take care. Stay safe and stay home, please.
Yes, take care. Okay, bye.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye. So that was it, guys. All right. So I hope that this gave you some insight. And mm, all right, we're coming up with live mocks in few days. More live mocks from next week or like in 10 days around. We'll also come up with some webinars on gate preparation. So stay tuned for that. And uh, before going, I would say just be at home. Please take this thing very seriously. This pandemic second wave is really crazy. So just stay at home, and if you're healthy, that's a win already. Trust me. उसके ऊपर मेहनत करो हो जाएगा यार. We are welcome, Santosh. Thanks for your lovely comments and engaging with me. Take care, guys. Keep learning, keep growing. Have a good day, and I'll see you again. Bye.